Yes, go ahead.
Have you noticed the creek on the left-hand side, Fishy Hole Road, the last one? The animal put in that in. And when that fill in, what the consequence will be, the Fishy Hole Road and the people in Green Hole, the hectare and the street.
Well, you know, I'm not a marine mechanic or engineer, so I really don't know. But I know that the Grand Bahama, that area had been given for port extension way back, long time ago. And so they claim what is taking place there, they have all the legitimate rights to do it. But if that is the case, then it should not inconvenience the residents in this area. So what I'm saying, if your homes are vibrating and you'll be an inconvenience, and if those signs are not going, remember in fact, when we first had this problem arising, I got directly in touch with the Minister Darville, and he suggested what to do, which we did. We went to the manager at Bahama Rock, and we met there with them and their workers, etc. And they had promised certain things to be done. They put that sound, what do you call it? Seismograph in the Hawksbill area, and we told them that in addition to, I don't know why they put it way out there on the Barracky Highway going to 8 Mile Rock, they put a sign there when the blasting would take place. They also had it at the shipyard, right, Pablo?
Yeah, they did.
They did.
But it is put to the side, what's that doing?
Yeah, but no, let me get to the reason for that. So we said to them that at least let the people know when you're blasting, because if their house starts to rattle and shake, they know it isn't an earthquake or something, some natural phenomenon. And they promised to do that. And I think they eventually put up a sign, they put it over, you saw it there before. But that's type of, what you call it, measly attention to the well-being of our people cannot be the way forward for this country. All of us are significant. Remember my prayer tonight. All of us are equal in the sight of God. We are created in the image and the likeness of God. And no one has the right to demean us in any way whatsoever. Yes.
Senator Johnson, I have a question while we're here. I was wondering if the deputy leader of the Free National Movement, as well as the Minister for Grand Bahama, can begin to make available the reports that have been generated on Grand Bahama concerning environmental conditions over the years. I know the Free National Movement promised Earth and Sunshine, the PLP promised the Freedom of Information Act. And so it would be appreciated if all of the documents could be made available. I know the former minister, Mr. Barney Roberts, in 2005 and 6, he had a meeting concerning the Hawksbill Creek and the part that the road is blocked concerning some tourism, suicide, and the fact that opening that creek would actually contaminate the north side of the Bahamas. And I would just like for the government to begin to practice open transparency so that people can know what's going on. And please make available every single report going back to 92 Mississippi. Thank you.
Okay, hopefully the minister will take that information. Mr. Garcia. Sebastian is a man who worked with the chemical companies. Come right to some living example.
My point is that after 26.5 years working in the center, I can report that there were a lot of chemical reactions, there were a lot of people who I knew who were working there are now no longer in existence. They died, most of them with cancer. Now, the problem is, if this continues to happen, the government needs to have some program available to assist people who are still alive, to help them if they get sick. Because eventually, with the chemical, some of these chemicals that were brought here are not able to be processed anywhere else other than one of the Oak Islands, and they took Freeport as one of those of them. And we need to have these things corrected.
Thank you. Any other questions? Go ahead.
I want to say, for the 8-mile rock down there, like when they abandoned the story, when they blast them, the whole building used to shake, and the children used to be scared. Like what I'm trying to say, if they continue to rent it and blast them, they will split this whole island in half. And then you have 8-mile rock and rest and build their own island.
Could you speak on that?
Oddly enough, that you should mention that, it will not split because the primary mass of the island is in the middle. So they will have to dig 4 to 6 miles down. But where there is a very serious problem, it is a normal process for the islands, the outer edges, to actually break off with time. There's a normal fracture that runs, but actually most of the cave systems openings are actually on that. And that fracture runs from east to west. Now, the development of the container port has furthered that crack by over 450 feet. Eventually, time, this thing will break off. And millions of tons of rock will suddenly drop into the ocean and generate a tsunami wave, a massive wave that will sweep across the southern islands of the Bahamas, probably clip the Keys, and slam into Cuba. It will happen one day, but generally it happens at a slower pace without blasting. My concern is that with this continued blasting, and I've not monitored that fracture since, but if it was already 450 feet longer when the container port was still in phase 1, I didn't want to know. But no, the island will not break in half.
Okay, there's another Darville. They come in all colors. And this is the white one.
Just on service. Sorry about this, Dr. Darville. All right. No, I don't know if any of you know me, but Ray Darville, I used to be a park warden down in the Exumas for many years. I put my life on the line for the environment, so I don't need to go into much of that. If you're going to do that, I believe a lot of it. There's one thing that I learned being with the National Trust for over 13 years is that if you go at a fight and you say, I hate the government, I hate Bahama Rock, I hate everything, I want it all to stop, nothing is going to happen. Because they will put their feet in the sand and they have 1 billion times more money than we do. So you pick your fights. I'll give you the best example I've seen over the last 3 or 4 years. I have been hammered over what I have done trying to protect the environment on the oil and so forth. This gentleman here, Mr. Darville, a long task, has changed that tide to where it used to be business as normal. Him and his delegates got together and said, no more here in Grand Bahama. Now, if you leak oil in this Bahamas and you're here in Freeport, it's a big deal. It's dealt with. The government deals with it. It takes time. And the reason why I give that example is there's a lot going on here with Farmer Kim, Grand Bahama. I won't go into this yet. They've all said that. But there's one piece of the puzzle that I hear everybody not bringing out to the forefront is the main problem with the pine yards dying, and ma'am, I've done calculations, is between 300,000 to 500,000 acres of pine lands are gone. They're gone. Some of them are from what she said. The other parts are because of they call it the cut. What do they call it? The cut schedule for Bahama Rock. Bahama Rock has a cut schedule. They originally, I've been over every EIA. I've hounded poor Mr. Darville to death. I've been trying to do it quietly behind the scenes for many years. Our company has suffered dramatically because of the retribution to our company, we have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. This man has stepped up and kept some of those wolves off of our backs, okay, over the years. And some people have actually stepped up in the House of Parliament and said, leave them alone. Because the only thing we're talking about, but one of the main problems is the cut schedule. They're filling in the area between the Grand Bahama Shipyard and Bradford. Whenever the storm surge comes, if you look at the EIAs from Bahama Rock, you will notice that there are exhibits 43 through 48 are missing. Even on the government site, they're not there. They didn't take the talk about it in the text because it took energy to do that. They just got rid of the exhibit. All to do with storm surge. The storm surge backs up because as they are doing their cut plan, it's cheaper to move rock quickly across high roads. So they dammed off what was called Billy Key. Some of you guys know it as Billy Key. There was an estuary that used to go through there. It used to let approximately 17 million cubic meters of water pass through there during the storm surge every hour. Now it's restricted. Fishing Hole Road? That's a joke. That's only it's only a very small piece of the problem. That's why the EIA say it's not a problem. It's from Fishing Hole Road, where John Hines has his company there, the crane company, all the way around to where International Distributors. That whole area floods during the storm, and all y'all have seen it, all that water goes out. Well, it doesn't happen anymore because of all of the dredging that they did. And the first problem that we had in the 1970s was whenever they dredged the canal for Bradford, and they called it the canal channel. They built up that area, and if you look at Purple Earth, you'll watch where it's been torn down every year whenever we have the storms. And what's happening is all of that salt water has built up in the bay. You can see this big bay. It's a big bowl right there. See the big bowl right there? That bowl will hold about 400 million cubic meters of water in it during the storm. Between 400 and 800 million. It takes a serious flow of water to get that water down. If it doesn't go down, it builds up, then it tears through some of the berms, and then as soon as the wind shifts, all of a sudden it goes down to West End, where it's flooded for the first time ever. Ain't nobody ever known West End to flood, ever. Ever. This isn't something that just happened overnight. The Pine Lodge were there for millions of years, or hundreds of thousands, I don't know, but longer than anything we've done to affect it. What we have to do is not combat Bahama Rock, not combat these places, but get with our ministers, get some legislation, just like they did in the 50s and 60s in the United States, went after these big corporations and said, listen, if you know what you are doing is wrong, then we're going to sue your ass. Excuse me. We're going to sue you. If you're unaware of what you've done, let's fix the problem. But let's not shut it down. Alright?
Okay, extremely wise advice to us. Thank you so much. Any final question or two? Okay, go ahead, please. Make it short.
Look at the blocks in effect, like some of the companies, like polymers.
If they would affect them?
Will it affect the foundation of these companies or that blasting? You know, they have hazardous chemicals in it.
Well, when we had the problem, the first night about the blasting, the vibration in Hawksbill, actually, I contacted the Grand Bahama Power Company and asked whether or not they felt the vibration there. And they immediately said yes, that they vibrate for a while, but then they always had a notice when the blasting would take place, just like the Grand Bahama Shipyard. When I worked there, we knew exactly because of the sensitivity of instruments and all of that, we had to know at the shipyard where the blast had taken place. That same courtesy should have been extended to the Hawksbill residents, that they know exactly when it would happen, so they don't have to run out their houses thinking something really terrible would happen. Whether or not anything can be damaged, so forth, they explained to us when we met with them, and they told us, they gave their building, the office building, as an example. And they said it sits right there where all of this blasting can affect the building. And they said nothing untoward has happened to that building, but maybe it was built to withstand the blasting. So, you kind of think their word for everything that they tell us.
When we were trying to get Commonwealth to make their explosions a little less strong so that our houses wouldn't get cracked up, we met with them in their offices at Mark Marietta. They brought in a gentleman from Kentucky and another seismic specialist, and they told us all that slamming the door in our house would shake our house more than their blasting. And so what I did was I took a video camera on a tripod like these ones you see in front of us. And at that time they told us, they're going to blast at 4 o'clock. So I came home from ZNS, I set up the tripod, and at 4 o'clock, my grandmother was in the living room watching TV, and I still have the footage. You can see the camera actually shaking, and you can see the pictures on the wall shaking. And so what we did at the meeting was, Mr. Roberts, Willie Roberts, who ended up selling his house for half of what it cost him to build it, he said to the gentleman, he said, would you like to come have dinner in my house? Because in my dining room area, there's cracks all the way across the whole wall. I would like you to sit at my table and have dinner with us. He said, oh, no, I'm good. I don't need to come to your house. So it's just, they take us for fools. Yeah. And if we sit back, they're going to continue to do that. That's right. And until you make them accountable, they're not going to be accountable. That's right.
I just want to say one more thing. Mama Marietta is being sued on multiple fronts in the United States for exactly the same thing.
Okay, we're going to close one more. So that was a comment.
Also the residents.
Oh, okay. Well, I think they have. Okay, he's asking when they create the area around the Fishing Hole Road where water will flow across again, flood, it's closed out there, the water won't be able to flow out. What will happen? Well, they have plans in the making, because they have for a long time to actually build a crossover or something like that. So it would be rising way above the water level. So, and hopefully at that time, they will build culverts so that the water can flow through and escape and not build up in that area. I don't know, They have the plans for it, and hopefully in due course, they will be shared with the community. But anyway, I'm very happy to see, where are all these beautiful young students from? Congratulations to you. I think tonight has been an incredible learning experience. You've heard from experts, you've heard from people with experience, etc. Again, this is our beautiful planet, so look out for it, care for it. Hopefully, what is happening there, I don't know, I have to agree with Mr. Darville back there. There's very little that, well, I shouldn't say very little we can do, but some mitigation has to take place, and we have to meet. I would suggest that that committee, concerned citizens, that following this presentation, we meet again with Marriott, with the company, and express very straightforward to them our particular concerns. Dr. Darville.
Thank you so much, cousin. First of all, on behalf of the governor, I'd like to thank Dr. Schwabe for her presentation. Very well-renowned scientist in the field of minerals and caves and rocks. I'd also like to thank you, Joe Darville, as well as you, Schwabe, to really bring this environmental concern back to the forefront. The residents of Hawksbill, Northside, and Fitness Point, I want to let you know that our study should be concluded before the end of December. It's a study that has been going on for about a year and a half, and the study is extremely extensive. I don't want to preempt power of WHO, but I want to let the residents of Hawksbill know that the study includes the Hawksbill community and other surrounding areas. I'm proud of the study. It's completely independent. The government have no stake in the outcome. Let the chips fall where they lay. Second of all, I'd like to say that during the course of the study and some of the epidemiology aspects, we had experts coming. We did have the opportunity for Pablo to interview Mr. Darville as it relates to his experience, all of the individuals in the community, industry, concerned citizen in the environment, and the list goes on and on. It's a very comprehensive analysis. For the first time ever in the industrial sector, any government in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas took this kind of bold step, and it was led through the Ministry for Grand Bahama, and my deep concern about the health and well-being of residents on the island of Grand Bahama. I make no excuse for it, and I say to everyone here that let the chip fall where they lay.
Thank you, my brother cousin. Sorry. Hey, Pablo, what you got to fight with me now? Sally, that's it. No, I'm not asking to speak. I just want to make sure that we thank you for being here, very quiet and attentive.
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, okay. This has been very good. And again, my heart is filled because I see so many young people here and very considerate people like Pablo, like Dave Barr, and the other committee. Thank Janice for being here to cover it, and I hope you didn't just come because the minister was here. I'm sorry, so you're not a police officer. But it's been a good night, a very good night. In fact, I learned a lot about my those water caves and you got it. What's Stephanie? Kathleen.
Stop that.
Where did she go? She's crying. Stephanie. You've been to Long Island?
Yes.
You got many more caves in Bahama.
Yes, the type of caves are much more numerous on this island. It's the island with the most caves.
This one?
Yeah.
Even more than the Abaco?
You have 3 different types of caves. You have horizontal caves, which this island is famous for, and then you have 3 kinds of caves. You have horizontal caves, vertical caves, and then basically fracture caves. And 3 islands have fractures. This is the only island that has the most extensive horizontal caves. And the reason for that is if you look at that picture, the south side of the island is at the head of the tongue of the ocean, those super deep waters. And these are called lesser Antilles currents that come up and they push against the island. And so they push all that water into the island, and that helped in the process of forming these very extensive subsurface caves.
Deansboro is considered a cave or
Deans is called a vertical cave. It just goes straight down and doesn't go anywhere else. And those caves exist from the west side of Ambrose Island all the way over to Florida. In fact, a very famous oceanographer took a small sub, not knowing, into one of these big holes under the water, and didn't realize that the fresh water supply was seeping out of Florida into the bottom, so it's the reverse of what you have here. And he got down, saltwater submarines are very susceptible to density changes, got down to the very bottom and hit fresh water and sank like a rock. It almost couldn't get out.
Okay, but Long Island is still 1,700 times the deepest blue hole in the world. 686 feet deep down, straight down. Okay, so thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you all the organizers, and the game, and God bless you all. And go out and watch the sunrise in the morning, and thank God. one thing.